Joining us now via the phone from Washington is Congressman Jim Jordan, Republican from Ohio. He is the chairman of the Republican Study Committee, the caucus of House conservatives. And Chairman Jordan, thanks for being here.
Good to be with you today.
Well, President Obama revealed his $3.8 trillion budget yesterday, which he claims will provide short-term economic relief and control the government's soaring budget deficits. How should we Americans view this proposal?
Same way, that claim is the same claim he's been making for 3 years, and obviously it hasn't worked. I told someone yesterday, this budget is the same old, more taxes, more spending, more failure. Kevin, think about it. If big government spending, big government control, if that were going to get us out of this economic mess, we'd have been out of it a long time ago. Because that's all the government's done in this administration is more spending, more picking winners and losers in the marketplace, more tax increases, more talk of more spending, more talk of more tax increases, and more regulation. It's the wrong recipe, and it's unfortunately they're committed to this approach, and it just doesn't work.
Obama's proposed tax increases on wealthy individuals and some corporations have set the stage for a year-end battle in Congress. What kind of battle do you think that we will end up seeing, and how do you see this playing out? Does the Buffett Rule get imposed, and will the Bush tax cuts ultimately expire?
The answer is no and no. The Buffett Rule is not. So think about this. Somebody's going to have to, at some time, explain to me how you create jobs by taxing the job creators. I've yet to figure that thinking out. It's just illogical. It makes no common sense. And I think once Americans take a little time to think about it, they figure it out as well. But somehow this administration is committed to raising taxes. This administration, we have never seen this in the history of the country, where for now 4 years in a row, it will run trillion-dollar deficits. When this first term is up, this president will have taken the national debt from slightly over $10 trillion to over $16 trillion. So it's a $5 trillion increase in 4 years. Never happened in the history of the country. We are headed to a cliff, a true debt crisis, and President Obama just wants to keep spending. He wants to keep putting the foot on the gas and taking us to this cliff faster and faster.
Are we headed for a Greek-style debt crisis, as some say?
If we don't begin to fix this and turn this ship around and get it headed in the right direction, and that means lower taxes, that means really reducing spending and figuring out real savings, getting this thing headed in the right direction, and promoting creating a framework that's conducive to job growth. If we don't do that, we in fact are headed there because it's simple mathematics. It's the time value of money working in the wrong way for us here. When you're 3 months ago, when we crossed a line, frankly, you never want to cross, but we did. The greatest nation in history did, in fact, cross it. Our debt to GDP ratio is now 1-to-1. We have a $16 trillion debt. We're a $15 to $16 trillion annual economy, and whenever you get in that area, that is the danger zone. That's exactly where Greece was. That's where Italy is. That's where so many countries in Europe who are having problems, who are getting downgraded and having a whole host of problems. That's where they're at. And now the greatest country ever is in the same position.
Team Obama plans to campaign against Congress this fall. If this budget is nothing more than an appeal to middle-class voters or a campaign gimmick, as some are calling it, will voters buy it?
Well, we'll see. Look, the American people get it. They figured out long before the politicians. I think they're the people in this great country are sharp people, and I think they will see through this administration. But I think you're right, and largely this year there's not going to be unfortunately, a whole lot get done in Congress. It's largely about who's going to be the next president and who's going to control the government starting in 2013. And so I think you will see both sides take their message to the American people. And the way we decide things in this great country is on Election Day. And we'll decide on Election Day if Barack Obama is going to get a second term or if we're going to replace him with someone who's going to come into the White House and I think help create an environment that's more conducive for economic growth.
So do you agree with those who say that this budget is nothing more than a campaign gimmick?
Yeah, it means another $1 trillion deficit, not even addressing the underlying problem, not even attempting to put in the kind of reforms we need to save Medicare. This budget is a political document, and it doesn't even it's not serious when you think about the gravity of the problems fiscal problems that we face. And it's unfortunate that here you have the President of the United States who wants to play political games and not address the real issues that confront this country.
Chairman Jordan, it was the late, great President Ronald Reagan who said we should measure welfare success by how many people leave welfare, not by how many are added. Is the U.S. becoming a welfare nation with this new budget and Obama's socialist policies?
Well, this administration has unfortunately begun to head back in the wrong direction from where the reforms that were put in place in the mid-1990s took us with welfare. You think about the old welfare system, and now, unfortunately, we're moving back with these kind of incentives in place. The old welfare system said, particularly to the single mom out there, don't get married, don't get a job, and have more children, and we will pay you more money. So talk about the wrong incentives that we sent to individuals, and frankly, I would say, unfortunately, kind of trapped people into this welfare mess instead of giving them the incentives and the help they need to get to a better life. Unfortunately, this administration is moving back in that direction, where they are more and more focused on big government in Washington instead of empowerment to families and communities. And again, that'll be a big theme in this upcoming election.
Okay, while we have you, Chairman Jordan, I want to get your thoughts on a couple other issues. Gas prices are soaring again. One report finds that they're up 12 cents a gallon in the last month alone. How do you see the higher gas prices impacting the economy, and how should we view the Obama administration's decision to reject the Keystone pipeline permit in light of these higher gas prices?
Well, their decision to reject this is just goofy. I mean, this is so common sense. I did a kind of a little town hall last night in one of our counties, and this was brought up, and people are like, it just defies common sense why you wouldn't support a pipeline from our closest neighbor, Canada, friendly nation, allied nation, right here in North America, helping with our energy needs, helping with the gas price. Why you wouldn't okay that after the years of study that have already been put in place, when in fact, as many Americans know, there are thousands of pipelines currently running under the ground, running from the Midwest and the northern part of the country down to the Gulf. Why you wouldn't do that, who knows, but it just, again, defies common sense. So certainly that is a bad decision and doesn't help with the price of gasoline at the pump right now. And obviously when that price goes up, that's hard on families. It makes it more difficult for them to meet their needs and function inside their budget.
So how big of an election issue does Keystone Pipeline become?
I think it's big, and we're going to keep trying. But this administration has decided they're going to side with the radical environmentalists and the radical left, and not do something that makes common sense.
On a separate issue, former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum is surging in the polls. Why do you think his message is resonating with voters, and could he win the nomination and go on to defeat President Obama?
Sure, he could. I think any one of I think whether it's Santorum, whether it's Governor Romney, or whether it's Speaker Gingrich, I think any three of them, if they're our nominee, we can beat President Obama. And I think Americans want someone who is genuinely conservative, who understands that the answers aren't in Washington, the answers are with families and communities and out and about across this great country of over 300 million people. And both, I think all three of our potential nominees are making that case, and it resonates with the American people, particularly in light of what this administration has done and the positions they have taken.
Republican Study Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, thanks so much for joining us.
You bet. My pleasure.